now.
There are some sports that aren't afraid of the rough stuff. It's called the National Lacrosse League, where they're kicking the crap out of each other every night.
How about that?
And UFC, because human nature hasn't changed. There's still aggression. Kids still need to take their aggression up. So maybe they don't play hockey anymore. Maybe they play football. Maybe they play lacrosse. But if this is the way that junior hockey wanted to go anyways, I say let's play if that's what it's going to take.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
It absolutely is. Good day, Canada and Canadian sports fans around the world. We are live coming at you out of the bunker here in Western Canada, and it's episode number 478 of Canada's daytime sports talk show. I see people are punchy. Woo-hoo! Very punchy.
Are they?
In the comment section today, and that's great. I want to tell you who are, I'm Rod. He's Moose DuPont. It's really catching on, isn't it, Moose?
I guess so. I honestly, I'll swear I didn't think it would, but it is. And
I didn't think it would?
And I'm into it. I don't know. Yeah.
Moose DuPont is a thing.
It's not often you get a nickname in your 30s. That's when it comes. Usually it happens a lot earlier.
You never know.
So I'll take it.
Folks, we'll get to your comments in a moment. This is the warm-up, as you know, for the Four Seasons Sports Palace. And order a pizza online and beverages as well. They have delivery service. Four Seasons Sports Palace, 909 Arcola Avenue East here in the sweatpants capital. Coming up on the program today, I'm excited to chat with these guys. Jason Gregor from TSN 1260 Edmonton, the famed Edmonton broadcaster. John Hodge, the famed columnist for 3downnation.com out of Winnipeg. I was on the 3Down live stream with them last night covering the CFL Draft, and we just had a blast. It was a great night, and we're going to get to that in a moment. And coming up later from Increase Athletics, you know him, you love him, Daniel Wappel, a guy that played in Vancouver, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Regina, the Estevan Bruins, the Saskatchewan Huskies. This guy played all over, Darren. He's going to be with us from Increase Athletics and his partner Tyson Enzi. We're going to talk about their company, but also talk about some NHL topics. So that's coming up in hour two. But let's please hit the quick six show topics, please. Oh, that's loud. This reminds me of that old marketing slogan. We're going to sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. We got six topics, but we only need two. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. Number one, it was a wild night. CFL Draft leftovers. I'm not joking when I say it was great. TSN did a really good job. We were on the 3Down Nation live stream. The Ticats did their own post-draft thing hosted by our good friend Louis B. There was some drama. There was some intrigue. And what was different between the NFL Draft and the CFL Draft is there are months and months and months leading up to the NFL Draft. For the CFL Draft, Darren, I think you would agree there was like 2 days. And let's be honest, who knew who Jake Burt was before Monday other than the Jake Burt family? And really nerdy, hardcore, hyper-focused Patriots fans who would know who's on the practice roster of their team.
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody knew.
Nobody.
And all of a sudden, he's the number one overall pick. And then, as I told you they would, the Saskatchewan Roughriders went with Nelson Lacombe, number 2 overall. I had no inside info there, but I know how the general manager of the Roughriders, Jeremy O'Day, thinks. And that was an easy slam dunk home run, I guess. And then away we went. And Bob's your uncle. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers took a couple of U of R Rams, Kyle Borsa and Robbie Lowe's, and people are mad at the Riders that they didn't take the local kids, the Regina kids, but the Bombers did. So the rivalry's alive there, and Chuba Hubbard's going to the rival Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the CFL Draft. If you weren't watching, you really missed out. So I hope in that 2-day build-up that you got your appetite whetted to watch it because it was great.
Connor Bergloff, Jake Haggerty from the U of S, along with Lacombe, went. I want to give a shout-out to Flory and the good work he's doing. Scott Flory up in Saskatoon. Love following that program. I retweeted Blake Nill's tweet this morning. He's the coach at UBC, who I have tremendous amounts of respect for, talking about all of the Canada West players that went. And the game is just so underratedly good at the Canada West level, but really the U Sports level all across Canada. And so to celebrate that last night with the players going from all the different schools, I thought was just tremendous. And of course, we're hyper-focused here in the western side of the country. I mean, the guys that went from Manitoba and U of A and all of the programs, it was really, really fun to see. It was almost like not as much me being excited for these CFL franchises getting great players, but more of proud of these university schools and the work that they've put in. So
it was cool. All positive. It was all smiles. Now, to the viewers, before we change topics, from Michael Wynn, CFL Draft was fantastic. Go Bombers, go. Hashtag for the W. From Dominic, the CFL Draft was good. Feels like a higher level of player being picked this year. From Jeff, the Stampeders fan, like I said, exact words on the RP show Monday regarding the Stamps draft, Canadian offensive line, past that, linebacker types for special teams. He's saying they did exactly what he predicted them to do, and I would hope if he's in tune with his football team that he would nail it, and he did. So they're into it. Wayne Grollo in BC. I think the Riders did a good job of drafting Nelson Lacombo and Terrell Jana last night. They got, with the second last pick of the second round, the guy that John Hodge had for his number one player in the mock draft. So the Riders had to be very happy with their draft. From Patrolman Pete in Winnipeg, is it just me, or did all the CFL hosts on TSN look noticeably older than since the last time we saw them all together? I think it's just you. But maybe they are. Technically, they are older than the last time we saw them all together.
Yeah. You're saying they're not aging well in the pandemic? Is that?
Look. It's not like I'm going to throw anybody under the bus here, but Rod Smith has decided in the pandemic to just let it go. White. I'm using Control GX, and it works awesome. I love it. Listen, how often do I tell you I watch SportsCenter? If I'm not watching ESPN, I'm watching TSN or Game Plus. Okay, so I know I watch the ads for Control GX.
Oh, yeah.
It works.
Of course.
But Rod Smith has decided to let it go. So, of course, he would look older. So Dwayne Ford has a little more white in his goatee. Who wouldn't expect that? Right?
Yeah.
I think overall it was just nice to see the gang back together, was it not? But I'd like to say I thought it would have been appropriate for the CFL and TSN both to acknowledge the passing of Chris Schultz at the outset of the broadcast. But that's just me, and maybe I'm just hypersensitive to it. So I'll move on. I just wanted to mention that. Jacques Dupuis says, good morning from rainy Ottawa. He's watching today the nation's capital. And I had a call from an Ottawa media person yesterday. It was a fun call. And he said, Rod, drop it with making this CFL draft something. He goes, we don't have a Trevor Lawrence. We don't have a Trey Lance. We don't have a Zach Wilson. It's not the best players. It's just a draft we have to do. It'll never be anything. And I said, well, listen, the World Juniors was just a hockey tournament until the World Juniors, or TSN made it the World Juniors. Right? We could tell people it's a thing, it'll be a thing. And he goes, but those are still the greatest players. These aren't the greatest players. I said, stop. Picture this. Name me a theater in Ottawa. And he said something along the lines of the CAC theater or something. I said, this theater in Ottawa, on the stage, the commissioner and Russ Jackson and Tony Gabriel and the first round players that you know are going to get drafted, and Matt Nichols and Paul Lapalisse and Marcel Desjardins and the TSN panel, and we bring in Jock Climie. We call him Jock Climie because he's a lawyer, slimy lawyer. He's a great guy. I know. He's a great guy. I've met him. I've been introduced to him at least 5 times. He's a good guy. So I'm seeing all the stars there. You're selling merchandise in the lobby, CFL draft stuff, just like the players get when they walk on stage. And it's a party. And oh, by the way, we're drafting these guys over here that you've never heard of. But it doesn't matter because it's all about getting everybody together and promoting the product. And he goes, you sold me. Paid for by the Best Buy CFL Draft. Anyways, I want to move on to the next topic, but that was our chat yesterday.
Unreal. And with the chance of maybe drafting Americans, if you open it up with the XFL, imagine if you are drafting Corey Sheets or Bo Levi Mitchell or Mike Riley. Yeah, they're not going to be slam dunk, going to start day one and be stars like Trevor Lawrence, because if that was the case, they'd have went in the NFL draft. But they're going to be exciting. You're going to have reasons to know who these guys are. So it has an opportunity to be really, really big.
Here's one, by the way. Farmer in Saskatchewan writes in. He says, I sure love the excitement from the first overall pick this year. So his family was together watching the pick and the draft, and he was adorned in Ticats gear when they made the selection. Think about that for a second.
They called him. They knew.
Obviously.
And they kept that a secret.
Yeah. Yes.
So
they pulled a John Lynch, and I don't mean John Frenzy, the 49ers general manager, who didn't even tell his own scouts who they were taking third overall in the draft. So it was fun. The CFL draft was fantastic last night. So bravo TSN, bravo CFL, and I'm glad for those of you that followed along that you did. Moving on now to the other thing that took over Twitter last night, and that's Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals. We had talked about him ragdolling Artemi Panarin and Buchnevich with the Rangers. Y'all have seen the video. I'm sure if you're watching this show, you saw the tweet from the New York Rangers where they've said that George Parros, the head of NHL discipline, is unfit for his job. And they said it was a horrific act of violence of what he did. And I actually went to Twitter and said I don't have any issue with what the Rangers said. I had guys coming back at me going, listen, he didn't shoot up a school, Rod. He didn't, you know what I mean? Like, how horrific is it? I've been around the game my whole life. He slammed Artemi Panarin's head. He pile drove him into the ice with no helmet on. He could have killed him. And all he got was a $5,000 fine. It's wrong that all he got was a $5,000 fine. And I'm kind of sitting back going, I've said a few times this season and last that Parros has made some really odd decisions, but I understand. I learned this from Rick Dirksen 100 years ago, the WHL head of discipline. 10 guys can look at one piece of film and see it 10 different ways. So just because I don't agree with George Parros doesn't mean that I'm right and he's wrong or the other way around. But Tom Wilson could have killed Artemi Panarin on the ice the other night. He's a star. But you people who don't want fighting, this is what you're going to get. You know what a lot of Rangers supporters are saying, including Kyle Hall, our good friend from the Broadway Hat podcast? Rangers don't have anybody tough. So whose fault is it? You're going to let some idiot like Tom Wilson skate around and rough up your Russians and knock Artemi Panarin out for the rest of the year, and you can't do anything about that because you don't have any tough guys? Whose fault is that? That's the way the NHL is now. And I love SportsCenter. Mike Johnson, LeBron, Gino Reda. They went deep for like 10 minutes on this. It was a fascinating discussion. And they brought up the U.S. television contract. Is this what we want Americans seeing for the NHL? I'll say it again. The United States has had the NHL for 100 years. It's a Don Cherry line. Like it's all new to them that the NHL might be violent. But this isn't violence. This was stupidity. Right? What Tom Wilson did is stupidity. Okay? And I don't need an anonymous quote from The Athletic from a GM to say Tom Wilson's skating on borrowed time here. He's still in the league. He got a $5,000 fine. I know you got thoughts. I'm going to turn over to you right away. What did I say? 6 topics. We only need 2. So the Rangers can say whatever they want. These are the kinds of things that we would sit around in the dressing room and say about the other team or the other guy. So they're just putting it on Twitter. So what? What they're saying isn't new. Mike Johnson said the players would love what the Rangers did by tweeting that and making a statement. They can say whatever the hell they want. They can call for whoever's job. It's does Gary Bettman have the brass ones to either remove the guy or keep the guy? I think since 1992, Gary Bettman knows what he's doing. Just because the Rangers want George Parros removed doesn't mean they're going to remove him. It's their opinion. It's not cancel culture. They can say what they're just finally putting into 160 characters what hockey people have been saying for 100 years. This isn't new. I'm not trying to cancel anybody. And by the way, there's people I would like canceled that aren't going to get canceled. I accept that. So why are people coming after the New York Rangers? They can say whatever the hell they want. And by the way, I would be as upset as they are. Again, their best player could have been killed by Tom Wilson. They have a right to tweet what they tweeted. I think I'm done.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You keep going. I love it. No, you're right. And it's not cancel culture. So anybody who thinks that the Rangers, that it's cancel culture for George Parros, it's not. This is such a hot button topic, and there is so much reaction on social media about the same thing. And it didn't come out the second that it happened, the second the game was over. You waited and you saw this build up and bubble and boil, and then they came out with this statement. You know, it was careful. It wasn't just, you know, we're going to ask him to be fired because he did something we don't agree with. No, he made a decision that the whole hockey world doesn't agree with, you know, and you're right. Could have killed him. Could have killed him. I had somebody, you know, and I haven't ran the numbers, but a $5,000 fine with his $4.1 million contract is equivalent to you getting a $100 speeding ticket.
Less than, I think.
Less than $100. It was like $62.
It's like a nickel.
Yeah, it was nothing, you know, for that. So, and he had no helmet on. I saw the clip of Crosby. Was it last night against the Flyers? And he was wrestling a guy and threw him down to the ice. He was wearing a helmet. It happened once. It was completely different. This is a guy, ragdolled him twice. And I know we want to look at people faceless and nameless, and everybody should be treated equally, but it's just not the case. He's a star. You protect the quarterback. You protect the stars, because that's why we pay money to go to the games. Yeah, I'll go to a Leafs game because it's the Leafs, but I'll really go this year because they got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and on and on. You're going to go because it's Connor McDavid. You're going to go watch games in New York because of Panarin. So protect them.
Just from the viewers, Ryan McCarthy is watching in Saratoga, New York. Rod, do you think the fact that former players are running the Department of Safety rather than someone like Colin Campbell is the reason for the lenient punishments? Well, Colin Campbell played in the league, too. I don't think you should have a goon running player safety. And Clark says, well, Berkey thinks they should. I'm like, when did Berkey become the conscience of the National Hockey League? And by the way, I'm not the conscience of the National Hockey League, but I don't think you should have a goon running the Department of Player Safety. It's a little bit of an oxymoron. Maybe give the job to Gretzky. He's not doing anything else right now. From Don McNeil in Central Ontario, he says, Paul Stewart tweeted out that George Parros isn't the problem. Go up the food chain and stop at Colin Campbell. Nobody likes Colin Campbell. Then get rid of all of them. But the Department of Player Safety is a joke, and the Rangers are right. They've made a lot of terrible decisions. So anyways, I can't wait to get Jason Greger's take. He joins us from Edmonton next from TSN 1260. And we'll get to the other four topics maybe later on today. You're watching the RP Show on Game Plus Television Network, YouTube and Facebook Live, and 24-hour sports talk at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.